A slot technician just leaked internal documents showing which machines are programmed to take your money the fastest. What former employees are revealing about these 9 specific slots could change the way you gamble forever, and casinos are not happy about this getting out. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which machines to avoid and why the math is stacked against you worse than you ever imagined. Alright, machine number 1 on our list is called Huff and Puff. Huff and Puff is made by IGT and it's based on the story of the 3 little pigs. You've got the big bad wolf trying to blow down houses and the whole theme is cute and family friendly. But according to former slot technicians, this innocent-looking game has some of the most predatory programming they've ever seen. Industry insiders report that Huff and Puff has a base game RTP hovering around 86 to 88%, depending on the casino's settings. That's already terrible, but what makes this machine particularly dangerous is how the bonus feature works. The main feature is called the Blow Down the House bonus. You need to land 3 or more bonus symbols to trigger it, and when you do, the wolf tries to blow down houses to reveal prizes. Former technicians reveal that this bonus is programmed to trigger approximately once every 180 to 200 spins. So if you're betting $1 per spin, you're spending close to $200 just to see the bonus. But here's where it gets really bad. The bonus has multiple levels: straw house, stick house, and brick house. Most players think the brick house is the best because that's how the story goes, but former employees have revealed that the game is programmed to give you the straw house about 75% of the time, and the straw house bonus typically pays between 10 and 30 times your bet. Think about that math. You spend $200 in spins to trigger a bonus that pays you $20. Former casino managers have observed players sitting at Huff and Puff for hours, grinding through terrible base game returns, waiting for that bonus. And when it finally hits, they get barely anything back. There's a documented case from former workers about a woman who played Huff and Puff every Tuesday afternoon for nearly a year. She loved the cute theme and the way the wolf animated on the screen. Former employees estimated based on her playing patterns that she was losing about $300 to $400 per session. Over the course of that year, she probably lost close to $15,000 on a game that looked like a harmless children's story. What really bothers casino insiders about Huff and Puff is that the cute theme attracts casual players who think they're just having fun with a silly game. They don't realize they're playing one of the worst-paying machines on the floor. The adorable graphics hide the brutal mathematics underneath. Now you might be wondering if all IGT games are this bad. Well, machine number 7 is going to show you that IGT has an even worse game in their lineup. But first, let's talk about machine number 2. Machine number 2, Lock It Link Nightlife. Lock It Link is a series made by Scientific Games, and Nightlife is one of the most popular versions in that series. The game has a party theme with champagne bottles and nightclub imagery, and it features the hold and respin mechanic that's become super popular in modern slots. Former slot technicians report that Lock It Link Nightlife has a base game RTP around 87% according to programming specs, but what makes this machine particularly problematic is how the Lock It Link feature is structured to drain money systematically. The feature triggers when you land 6 or more special symbols. Then you get 3 respins, and if you land more symbols, your respins reset. Industry documentation shows this feature is programmed to trigger about once every 90 to 120 spins, depending on the denomination you're playing. Here's the scam that former employees have identified. When you trigger the feature, the vast majority of the time you'll start with exactly 6 symbols and then fail to land any additional ones during your 3 respins. The feature ends and you collect whatever was on those 6 symbols, which is usually around 15 to 25 times your bet. But every once in a while, maybe 1 in every 40 or 50 features, you'll hit what players call a full board, or close to it. This is when you keep landing symbols, your respins keep resetting, and you fill most of the screen. These features can pay several hundred times your bet or more. Former casino managers explain that when someone hits one of these big Lock It Link features, it creates what they call the honeypot effect. Everyone around that machine sees the big win and immediately wants to play. But what they don't see are the 30 or 40 disappointing features that person probably triggered before hitting that one big one. There's a documented incident from former employees about a bachelor party that came into a casino. The group decided to play Lock It Link Nightlife together because the party theme matched their vibe. They took turns playing, cheering each other on, having drinks. After about 3 hours, the group had collectively put through about $4,000 according to transaction records. They triggered the Lock It Link feature probably 25 to 30 times during that 3-hour session. Most of those features paid small amounts. One guy hit a decent feature that paid about 150 times his bet, which was maybe $300. The whole group went crazy celebrating. But when they finally left, former employees estimated the group walked away down about $3,000 overall. That one good feature made them feel like they'd done okay, when in reality, they'd lost massive amounts of money. The nightclub theme and party atmosphere had distracted them from the terrible mathematics of the game. Former technicians specifically warn against Lock It Link Nightlife, according to their statements, because it combines bad base game ARTP with a feature that triggers frequently enough to keep you engaged but rarely pays enough to get you ahead. You're constantly feeding money into the machine, while the occasional decent feature tricks your brain into thinking you're doing better than you actually are. And speaking of machines that trick your brain, machine number 5 has a feature that's so psychologically manipulative, behavioral experts have studied it. We'll get to that in a few minutes. Machine number 3, Cleopatra Mega Jackpots. Cleopatra is one of the most iconic slot machine brands in casino history. The original Cleopatra game has been around for decades, but the Mega Jackpots version that IGT released is a completely different animal, and not in a good way. Former pit bosses report that Cleopatra Mega Jackpots has a base game RTP that can be as low as 85% depending on the casino's configuration. That's shockingly low for a game that uses such a trusted and beloved brand name. But the real problem is how the progressive jackpot system works. Before I break that down, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe and tell me in the comments, when was the last time you won big on a slot machine? Alright, let's get back to it. The game has 4 progressive jackpots: mini, minor, major, and mega. The mega jackpot starts at $1 million and can climb much higher. Players see that huge number on the display and their brain immediately fixates on it. But what former employees have revealed is that the odds of actually hitting the mega jackpot are astronomical. Technical documentation suggests the mega jackpot is programmed to hit approximately once every several million spins. Former slot technicians report that in their years of maintaining these machines, they've maybe seen the mega jackpot hit 2 or 3 times total. Meanwhile, thousands and thousands of players pump money into these machines every single day chasing that $1 million prize. But here's what makes Cleopatra Mega Jackpots particularly insidious, according to former managers. To fund those big progressive jackpots, the base game payouts are significantly reduced compared to the original Cleopatra game. So while you're chasing that mega jackpot that you'll almost certainly never hit, you're losing money faster on the base game than you would on the regular version. Former employees explain that players will justify the losses by saying, "But someone has to win the $1 million eventually." And that's technically true, but the statistical reality is that you personally are probably never going to be that person. You're much more likely to slowly drain your bankroll on terrible base game returns, while the progressive jackpot sits there taunting you. There's a documented case from former workers about a man named Robert who became obsessed with the Cleopatra Mega Jackpots machine. He convinced himself that he was due to hit the mega because he'd been playing it so consistently. Former employees observed him playing this machine for 6 to 8 hours at a time, multiple days per week, for over 18 months. Robert kept a notebook where he tracked every session. After 18 months, he reviewed his notes and calculated that he'd put approximately $180,000 through that machine. He'd won back about $135,000. That's a $45,000 loss chasing a jackpot he never hit. The worst part? 3 weeks after Robert finally accepted his losses and stopped playing, someone else hit the mega jackpot on the machine he'd been playing. Robert had spent 18 months and $45,000 chasing it, and then a tourist won it on their 5th spin. Casino insiders specifically warn against Cleopatra Mega Jackpots, according to their statements, because it exploits the trusted Cleopatra brand name to hide a machine with terrible base game odds and progressive jackpots that almost nobody will ever hit. You're paying a massive premium in reduced payouts for a chance at a jackpot that's statistically nearly impossible to win. Now, machine number 8 has a similar progressive jackpot scam, but with an even more predatory twist. We'll get to that one soon. Machine number 4, dancing drums. Dancing drums is made by Scientific Games, and it's become incredibly popular, especially in casinos with large Asian customer bases. The game has a Chinese theme with drums, cymbals, and traditional music. But this culturally themed game has some serious problems hiding under its attractive exterior. Former slot technicians report that dancing drums has a base game RTP around 87 to 89%, depending on denomination and settings. That's not the worst we've seen, but it's still not great. The real issue, according to insider analysis, is the Foo Babies bonus feature and how it's programmed to manipulate player behavior. The Foo Babies bonus triggers when you land 5 or more gold symbols. When it does, you get a picking game where you select drums to reveal how many free spins you get and what multiplier will be applied. Industry documentation shows this feature is designed to trigger approximately once every 100 to 150 spins. But here's what former employees have identified as the manipulation. Before each spin, the game gives you the option to buy extra gold symbols for an additional bet. You can activate 1, 2, 3, or 4 extra gold symbols by increasing your bet accordingly. Most players activate all 4 thinking they're improving their odds of triggering the bonus. Former managers explain that while technically you do trigger the bonus more frequently with more gold symbols active, the base game RTP drops significantly when you activate them. So you're triggering bonuses more often, but you're losing money much faster between bonuses. The math doesn't work in your favor. There's a documented pattern that former workers have observed repeatedly. Players will start on minimum bet with no extra gold symbols. They'll play for a while and maybe trigger 1 or 2 bonuses. Then they'll think, if I activate all the gold symbols, I'll trigger bonuses way more often. So they bump up to maximum bet with all gold symbols active. What happens next is predictable. The player burns through their bankroll much faster because they're betting 4 or 5 times more per spin. Yes, they trigger more bonuses, but those bonuses don't pay enough to compensate for the increased bet size and reduced base game RTP. One case study from former employees involves an older gentleman who played dancing drums every Thursday for about 2 years. For the first 6 months, he played conservatively with just 1 or 2 gold symbols active. He was losing, but slowly. Then someone told him he should activate all 4 gold symbols to trigger more bonuses. Over the next 18 months, former workers observed his losses accelerate dramatically. He was betting 3 to 4 times more per spin and triggering bonuses more frequently, but the bonuses weren't big enough to overcome his increased bet size. By the time he finally stopped playing, he'd lost somewhere around $30,000, with the vast majority of those losses coming after he started activating all the gold symbols. Casino insiders specifically warn against dancing drums because the buy extra symbols feature is designed to make players think they're improving their odds when they're actually just losing money faster. It's a perfect example of how casinos use psychology to get players to voluntarily increase their bet size while disguising it as a strategic advantage. And if you think that's manipulative, wait until you hear about machine number 5. That one uses colors and sounds in a way that behavioral psychologists say borders on unethical. Machine number 5, 88 Link Wild Duels. 88 Link Wild Duels is a relatively new game from Bally Technologies, and according to former casino employees, it's quickly becoming one of the most profitable machines for casinos, which means it's terrible for players. Former slot technicians reveal that 88 Link Wild Duels has a base game RTP around 86%, which is abysmal. But what makes this machine particularly dangerous is something former employees call celebration overload. The machine is programmed to celebrate constantly, even when you're losing money. Here's how it works. Almost every spin, something happens that triggers lights, sounds, and animations. You might land a wild symbol and the screen explodes with effects. You might get a near miss on the link feature and the machine makes excited sounds. You might win back half of what you bet and the game celebrates like you hit a jackpot. Former casino managers explain that this constant celebration is designed to keep your dopamine levels elevated. Your brain is being tricked into associating the machine with winning and excitement, even though you're actually losing money steadily. It's one of the most sophisticated psychological manipulation techniques in modern slot design, according to behavioral experts who have studied these machines. The main feature is called the 88 link feature, and it works similarly to other hold and respin games. You need 6 or more coin symbols to trigger it. Former technicians report it triggers about once every 80 to 100 spins, which sounds frequent, but according to payout data, the feature almost always pays less than 50 times your bet. What makes this particularly problematic is that even when you trigger the 88 link feature and win a disappointing amount, the machine celebrates like you just won the lottery. Massive animations, loud music, flashing lights. Your brain registers excitement and satisfaction even though mathematically, you just lost money because you spent 100 spins betting to trigger a feature that paid 40 times your bet. There's a documented case from former workers about a woman named Linda who played 88 link wild duels 3 to 4 times per week for about 8 months. Former employees noticed that Linda always seemed happy when she was playing. She was smiling, sometimes clapping when features triggered, clearly enjoying herself. One day, a former pit boss struck up a conversation with Linda and asked how she was doing on the machine. Linda said she loved it and felt like she was winning or breaking even most sessions. The former pit boss, who had access to her player card data, knew the truth. Over 8 months, Linda had lost approximately $24,000 on that machine. When the pit boss gently suggested Linda might want to check her own records, she was shocked. She genuinely believed she was doing okay because the machine celebrated so much and made her feel like she was winning. The constant positive reinforcement had completely masked the mathematical reality of her losses. Former employees say this is exactly what 88 Link Wild Duels is designed to do. The celebration overload keeps players happy and engaged even as they lose significant amounts of money. Former technicians have stated they feel uncomfortable working on this machine because the psychological manipulation is so transparent once you understand what's happening. Casino insiders specifically warn against 88 Link Wild Duels because it represents what they see as a disturbing trend in slot machine design. The machines are getting better at making you feel good while taking your money, and 88 Link Wild Duels might be the most effective example of this technique currently on casino floors. Now let's talk about machine number 6, which has a different kind of problem entirely. Machine number 6, Michael Jackson, King of Pop. Michael Jackson King of Pop is made by Bally Technologies, and it uses the Michael Jackson brand with his music, videos, and imagery throughout the game. For fans of Michael Jackson, it seems like a fun way to enjoy his music while gambling. But this branded machine is a perfect example of how licensing fees destroy player value. Former pit bosses report that Michael Jackson, King of Pop, has an RTP ranging from 85 to 88% depending on the casino's configuration. That's terrible, and the reason is straightforward. Bally has to pay significant licensing fees to the Michael Jackson estate to use his name, image, and music. They don't absorb that cost. They pass it directly to players by reducing the RTP. But there's something else that makes this machine particularly problematic, according to former employees. The game has multiple bonus features, a free spins bonus, a beat it bonus, a smooth criminal bonus, and more. Having multiple different bonuses sounds great, but it actually makes the game worse for players. Here's why. When you trigger a bonus, the game randomly selects which bonus you'll play. Some bonuses are much better than others. The smooth criminal bonus, for example, typically pays the best according to insider data. But the game is weighted to give you the worst bonuses much more frequently. Former employees explain that the game is programmed to give you the low-paying bonuses about 70 to 75% of the time. So you'll trigger the bonus, get excited thinking you might get the good one, and then you get stuck with a bonus that pays 15 times your bet after you spent 150 spins betting to trigger it. The psychological impact of this is that players always feel like they almost got the good bonus. They think, if I just keep playing, next time I'll get the smooth criminal bonus and win big. But statistically, you're much more likely to keep getting the bad bonuses over and over. There's a documented case from former workers about a huge Michael Jackson fan who traveled to Las Vegas specifically to play this machine. He was so excited about it that he planned his whole trip around playing the Michael Jackson slot. Former employees observed him playing for nearly 12 hours straight on his first day. He triggered probably 15 to 20 bonuses during that session, according to estimates. Most of them were the low-paying variety. He hit the smooth criminal bonus once and won about 200 times his bet, which was exciting. But by the end of his 12-hour session, based on his bet size and time played, he was probably down about $3,000. The worst part? The man told former workers that he had a great time and felt like it was worth it because he got to listen to Michael Jackson music all day. He didn't even seem to fully register how much money he'd lost because the entertainment value of the theme had overshadowed the mathematical reality. Casino insiders specifically warn against Michael Jackson, King of Pop, and all heavily branded slots according to their statements. The licensing fees mean you're always getting worse odds than you would on a non-branded game. And the multiple bonus features that seem like variety are actually just another way to manipulate you into thinking the good bonus is just around the corner when statistically it almost never is. Now we're getting to the final 3 machines, and these are the ones that former employees say are the absolute worst on the casino floor. Machine number 7, Monopoly Big Event. Remember earlier when we said IGT has an even worse game than Huff and Puff? This is it. Monopoly Big Event is part of IGT's Monopoly series, and according to former casino employees, it might be one of the worst-paying machines the company has ever produced. Former slot technicians reveal that Monopoly Big Event has a base game RTP that can be configured as low as 84%. 84%. That means the casino is keeping 16 cents of every dollar that goes through the machine. That's absolutely brutal. The game is themed around the classic Monopoly board game, with properties, chance cards, and the iconic Monopoly Man character. It looks fun and nostalgic, but underneath that familiar theme is programming that former employees describe as predatory. The main feature is the Big Event bonus, which triggers when you land 3 or more bonus symbols. When it does, you get to spin a wheel that determines how many free spins you'll receive and what multiplier will be applied. Industry documentation shows this bonus is programmed to trigger approximately once every 200 to 250 spins. Think about that. If you're betting $1 per spin, you're spending $200 to $250 just to see the bonus trigger. And the bonus typically pays between 20 and 70 times your bet. So you spend $250 to win $40. The math is catastrophically bad, but it gets worse according to former employees. The game also has a progressive jackpot system with 4 different jackpots. To be eligible for the jackpots, you have to bet a certain amount per spin. Most players max out their bet thinking they're giving themselves a shot at the jackpots. Former managers explain that the jackpots are programmed to hit so rarely that you're almost certainly never going to win one. Meanwhile, by maxing out your bet to be eligible, you're losing money on the terrible base game much faster. It's a double trap, bad base game RTP combined with jackpots that never hit. There's a documented case from former workers about a retired couple who loved Monopoly. They thought playing Monopoly Big Event would be a fun, nostalgic experience. Former employees observed them playing together, taking turns spinning, clearly enjoying the familiar theme. Over the course of one weekend trip, that couple put approximately $5,000 through Monopoly Big Event, according to transaction records. They triggered the Big Event bonus maybe 20 times. The bonuses paid small amounts. They never hit any jackpots. When they left, former employees estimated they'd lost about $3,500. But here's what really bothered the former workers who reported this. The couple seemed happy when they left. They talked about what a fun weekend they'd had playing their game. They didn't seem to fully comprehend how much money they'd lost because the nostalgic theme and familiar Monopoly branding had made the experience feel safe and friendly. Casino insiders specifically warn against Monopoly Big Event because it uses one of the most trusted brand names in gaming to hide what might be the worst RTP of any major slot machine currently on casino floors. Former employees have said they wish IGT would either improve the RTP or stop making the game entirely because watching players lose on it makes them uncomfortable. Machine number 8, Dai Lian Lian Dragon. Dai Lian Lian Dragon is made by IGT and it's marketed as a premium game with big jackpot potential. The machine has an elaborate Chinese theme with dragons, golden symbols, and traditional music. But this machine has one of the most deceptive progressive jackpot systems in the industry. Former slot technicians report that Dai Lian Lian Dragon has a base game RTP around 86 to 88%, which is already poor. But the real problem is the 4-level progressive jackpot system and how it's designed to manipulate player expectations. The game has mini, minor, major, and grand jackpots. The grand jackpot typically starts around $10,000 and can grow much larger. Players see that number and think they have a realistic shot at winning it. But what former employees have revealed through programming documentation is that the jackpots are weighted in a way that's deliberately misleading. Here's how it works. When you trigger the jackpot picking game, you're selecting from a grid of symbols. Match 3 symbols and you win that jackpot level. But the game is programmed so that you'll almost always match 3 mini jackpot symbols. Former technicians estimate the mini jackpot hits about 90% of the time when the picking game triggers. The mini jackpot is usually between $10 and $20, so players trigger the jackpot feature, get excited thinking they might win the grand, and then they win $15. Former managers explain that this is psychologically devastating because you got so close to the big jackpot but ended up with almost nothing. But here's the really insidious part. Every time someone wins any jackpot on any Dai Lian Lian dragon machine in the casino, all the other machines in the bank make noise and flash their lights. So you're playing along, losing money, and every few minutes the machine makes excited sounds and you look up thinking you won something. But you didn't. Someone else won the mini jackpot on a different machine. This creates what former workers call vicarious reinforcement. You're getting excited about other people's wins, which keeps you engaged and motivated to keep playing. But those other wins are almost always the tiny mini jackpot, and they're doing nothing to help your bankroll. There's a documented case from former employees about a man who became obsessed with hitting the grand jackpot on Dai Lian Lian Dragon. Over the course of 14 months, he played this machine religiously. Former workers observed him playing 4 to 6 hours per session, 3 to 4 days per week. During those 14 months, he triggered the jackpot picking game dozens of times according to estimates. He won the mini jackpot over and over and over. He won the minor jackpot, which is usually around $100, maybe 5 or 6 times. He never won the major or the grand. After 14 months, former employees with access to player tracking data estimated he was down approximately $60,000. The most heartbreaking part? 2 weeks after this man finally gave up and stopped playing, someone won the grand jackpot on the machine he'd been playing. He'd spent 14 months and $60,000 chasing it, and then a random person won it shortly after he quit. Former casino insiders specifically warn against Dai Lian Lian Dragon, according to their statements, because the progressive jackpot system is designed to give you the worst jackpot almost every time while making you feel like you're close to winning the big one. The vicarious reinforcement from other machines adds another layer of psychological manipulation that keeps you playing even as you lose steadily. And now for the final machine on our list. This one is so bad that multiple former employees have stated it should be investigated for predatory design. Machine number 9, Cash Eruption. Cash Eruption is made by Aristocrat, and it's a relatively new game that's been spreading across casino floors rapidly over the past couple of years. According to former casino employees, there's a reason casinos love this machine so much. It makes them incredible amounts of money while keeping players engaged longer than almost any other game. Former slot technicians reveal that Cash Eruption has a base game RTP around 85 to 87% depending on configuration. That's terrible, but what makes this machine truly dangerous is the hold and spin feature and how it's programmed to create near-constant engagement without actually paying well. The game has a volcanic eruption theme, and the main feature triggers when you land 6 or more gold coin symbols. You get 3 rest spins, and landing more coins resets your count. Industry documentation shows this feature is programmed to trigger very frequently, about once every 45 to 60 spins. Former employees explain that this frequent feature trigger rate is intentional. It keeps you constantly engaged and excited. You're never more than 50 or 60 spins away from the next feature. But here's the scam according to insider reports. The features almost never pay well. Former technicians with access to the programming specs report that Cash Eruption is designed to give you features that pay between 5 and 25 times your bet about 85% of the time. so you're triggering features constantly, but they're paying almost nothing. You spend 50 spins betting to trigger a feature that pays you 12 times your bet. You just lost significant money, but because you triggered a feature, your brain registers it as excitement and progress. Every once in a while, maybe one in every 20 or 30 features, you'll get a better feature that pays 75 or 100 times your bet. And very rarely, maybe one in every 200 features, you'll hit what they call a full eruption that can pay several hundred times your bet. Former casino managers explain that those rare big features are what keep players locked in. They trigger 20 disappointing features, then one decent one, and their brain thinks, see, it does pay. I just need to keep playing for the next big one. But mathematically, you're never getting ahead. You're slowly bleeding money while the frequent small features create an illusion of action and value. There's a documented case from former employees that really illustrates how effective cash eruption is at keeping players engaged while draining their bankroll. A woman in her 30s started playing cash eruption when it first appeared in her local casino. Former workers observed her playing this machine almost exclusively for about 10 months. During that time, she probably triggered thousands of features. The vast majority paid small amounts. She'd hit decent features here and there that kept her motivated. Former employees with access to player tracking data reported that over those 10 months, she'd put approximately $47,000 through the machine and won back about $37,000. That's a $10,000 loss over 10 months. But here's what made former employees particularly concerned. The woman seemed to think she was doing okay. She told other players that cash eruption was her lucky machine because she won all the time. The constant feature triggers had created such a powerful illusion of winning that she couldn't see the mathematical reality of her losses. Former casino insiders specifically warn against cash eruption because it represents what they consider to be the future of slot machine design. Games that keep you engaged with frequent features while systematically draining your bankroll with terrible math hidden underneath the excitement. Multiple former employees have stated they believe cash eruption's design should be investigated because the psychological manipulation seems to cross a line. One former slot technician was quoted in an industry report saying that working on cash eruption made them feel guilty because they could see exactly how it was designed to exploit human psychology. The constant engagement, the frequent features, the rare big wins, it's all precisely calculated to keep you playing while ensuring the house wins big. So now you know all 9 machines that casino insiders say you should avoid at all costs. So what's the best decision according to every former employee who came forward? Set strict limits, never chase losses, and remember that no machine owes you anything. The colorful graphics, exciting sounds, and frequent features are all carefully designed distractions from the mathematical reality that the house edge is always working against you. Subscribe for more insider casino information they don't want you to know.